Capalbio is a wonderful place in southern Tuscany and has absolutely to be visited. The origins of the village probably date back to the beginning of Middle Ages, when the population abandoned the settlements on the nearby hill called Monteti, because they wanted to be nearer to the road Via Aurelia, which has got new importance for the increasing trade. The area becomes feud of the powerful family Aldobrandeschi, and after various changes of ownership from 1416, Capalbio is dominated by Siena and subsequently begins a period of particular prosperity. Later, the administration goes to Florence. So starts a period of stagnation, and then begins a general degradation. In the 19th century, the family Colacchioni owns the area of Capalbio, and brigandage is blooming as in all central and southern Italy. Only after the reclamations made in the 20th century and after numerous agricultural reforms, the area of Capalbio returns to be well off. Today, Capalbio is a famous touristic destination thanks to the wonderful beaches often frequented by very important persons from politics and cinema, and thanks to the many monuments. The old town of Capalbio is very impressive. Walking in its alleys gives you actually the feeling of traveling over times and reliving the Middle Ages. Many enchanting views can be observed along the way. Perhaps the most impressive place is Piazza Magenta, a very romantic square where many cultural events take place during summer. The castle is placed on the highest point of the village. Actually, the building consists of two different parts, the Aldobrandeschi Tower and the Colacchioni Palace. The tower is the oldest part of the castle. In the beginning, it has been a possession of a Roman abbey. Then, in the 13th century, it has been enlarged by the Aldobrandeschi family, which had the feud of Capalbio for 3 centuries. The tower has a square ground plan, and it is supported on inclined walls. The upper part is crowned by 12 battlements, that is, with rectangular gaps. Adding to the tower, there is an elegant Renaissance palace made of 3 levels. On the ground floor is the inner courtyard with the well. On the first floor, there is the Puccini room with a monumental fireplace, old furniture, and the fortepiano, which has been played by Giacomo Puccini, who often visited Capalbio. In the other rooms of the palace are often set up contemporary art exhibitions. In summer, the castle is open from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. and with a break at lunchtime. In the low season, it is opened only on weekends. On the ground floor, you can also find the Tourist Information Center. Near the castle, there is the Monument of the Fallen. It was inaugurated in 1924 by the fascist government to honor the fallen soldiers of First World War and to stimulate the population to sacrifice. Originally, the entire square ground column and the overlying pyramid were plastered, while the flame was red. In 1982, the marble tablets were renewed and the names of all soldiers from Capalbio who died in one of the world wars were written on it. Since then, the monument became rather a place of mourning and commemoration. At the center of the village there is the small church dedicated to San Nicolas. The beginning of its construction dates back to Romanesque period, and a remarkable extension happened in the 15th century. Externally, the church is simply plastered, but the west facade shows traces of decorations never applied. The portal has a lancet arch and jambs made by smooth and turned columns. Above the portal, an inscription remembers the extension and restoration of the church in 1466. The current rosette is the work of the American artist Paul Dunn and has been inserted in 2004. The bell tower has been erected in the 12th century, but the overlying pyramid has been added in 1919. The ground plan of the church is rectangular and it is made by a single nave. The 4 chapels on each side are shallow. They are divided by columns that support 5 cruise vaults. The decorations of the capitals with stylized leaves or animals, typical for Romanesque Tuscan churches, are notable. The church is richly decorated with frescoes. On the internal side of the facade, there is a picture of Saint Sebastian. The chapels on the right were painted in the 15th century by an Umbrian artist. In the second chapel on the left side, there is a painting made by an artist of Sienese school in 15th century, showing a Madonna with child enthroned between Saint Catherine of Alexandria, Saint John the Baptist, Saint Francis and another Saint Catherine of Alexandria. The chancel is supported by a very unusual construction, whose barrel vault forms outside an underpass called Arco Santo. Equally unusual is the marble portrait that emerges above the Arco Santo. It is the Roman Emperor Hadrian, and the sculpture dates back to 2nd century after Christ. The city gate Porta Senese was erected in the 15th century, exactly when Capalbio was governed by Siena. The gate has a shape of a tower and is based on inclined walls. On the inner side, as well as on the outer side, the gate shows a clock with the Roman numbers. In the upper part, there is a battlement with a rectangular shape in Guelphish style. On the west side, there is an inscription that can be translated like this: I am happy Capalbio, protected by the Sienese lion and by the inner walls restored at their own expense, and by the other walls surrounding the former ones, running the year 1404, after which the world has turned 10 times and 2 times 2. Above the inscription, the coat of arms of Capalbio is shown twice. It is made of a belt head, the ancient symbol of Capalbio, which is hugged and protected by the Siamese lion. Very particular is the double wall around the ancient town. On the west side, in direction to the sea, both the low walls and the high walls are accessible. The high walls have square battlement in Guelphish style and bullet holes. The view which you can enjoy from the western walls is really breathtaking. On the right you can see the Isle Monte Argentario, and in front of it the promontory Tagliata. In days of good visibility, the shape of the island at Giannutri can be observed, and in front of it, that is closer to the coast, the rock called Formica di Ansedonia. It is also visible the coastal lake Lago di Burano and the artificial lake called San Floriano. On the left side you can see in the distance the coal-fired power station of Montalto di Castro. You can also access to the walls facing south. Just continue the Alley Garibaldi up to the end. From these walls you can enjoy a beautiful view on the city gate Porta Senese, on the fountain square, and on the countryside. Unfortunately, the north walls are not accessible. In front of the entrance to the old town, there is the fountain made by the artist Niki de Saint-Phalle, who is famous for having created here in Capalbio the Tarot Garden. The sculpture was placed in 2003 and represents a nana, a very recurring theme in the artist's work. It is a figure that joyfully emphasizes the femininity of its physical forms. A little further down, in the square Provvidenza, there is a little church which deserves a visit because inside there is a fresco made in 1510 by a pupil of the famous Renaissance artist Pinturicchio. The fresco represents a Madonna on throne with a child, surrounded by two angels, as well as by Saint Jerome with a lion, his attribute, and a young elegant man with a small sphere in his hand. In addition to the old town, Capalbio offers many other sites to visit. The Tarot Garden, the Lake Burano with the nature reserve, the walk on the hill Capalbiaccio with its remains of an ancient settlement, and last but not least, the coast with its famous bathing establishments and free beaches.